Hello, everybody. Richard Kensington. I'm the Principal Academic Relations from Up Education here in Auckland, New Zealand. And here I am sitting in the late afternoon, setting sun, looking towards the Auckland Harbour Bridge in the city of Auckland, and our central city area is immediately behind me. Thank you for inviting me along today. I am unable to attend in person today, so I pre-recorded this event earlier for you. I'd like to now just share my screen. And introduce my PowerPoint, which I will speak to you today. So just to refresh, I'm the Principal Academic Relations. I have been with Up Education for over 20 years, so I have a wealth of experience in this area. So New Zealand, where are we? Essentially two islands called the North Island and South Island. We're located in the Southwest Pacific, about 3 hours flying time from Australia, and about 9 hours flying time from Singapore and a few hours more to India. One of the plans for Air New Zealand, our national airlines, is by 2023, hopefully they will commence flying to India. So it'll be a non-stop flight from Auckland to India on a Boeing 787, which will be an exciting thing to do. When I first visited India many years ago, it was a hip hop flight, Auckland to Australia, Australia to Darwin, Darwin to Singapore, Singapore to India, and then we flew on up to Kathmandu, and it took days. Today, travel is easy. So Up Education, we were originally known as ACG Education, started in 1995 with 2 senior high schools. And it was the first time in New Zealand, the last 3 years of school, where one school, it was a private school. And senior college focused on domestic students, and New Zealand International College focused on international students. And you can see there over the period of time from 1995 through to today, we have expanded, and we've also actively worked with education providers across Australia and New Zealand. And for today's purposes, it is really our key relationships with our 3 partner universities in New Zealand. And the first was our #1 university in New Zealand, which is the University of Auckland. And you can see there by 2022, we've now established the University of Auckland International College. So that is a separate college that actually delivers the University of Auckland Foundation program. So New Zealand, the climate of New Zealand is known as a temperate climate. It's not too hot, not too cold. The average temperatures in Auckland are around 15 to 25. We've never had snow in Auckland. And the South Island definitely has 4 seasons. They definitely have snow in winter. And in New Zealand, our hottest months of the year are January, February, and our coolest months are in the middle of the year, January, July, and August. And we've got wonderful scenery, and it's for tourists, they love adventuring around the South Island of New Zealand. And the picture on the left is Milford Sound, which is a fjord accessible from the Tasman Sea, and cruise boats actually cruise right inland there to see the beauty of the scenery. We also have volcanic activity, and we also have lots of nature and bird life. The oldest kauri tree in New Zealand is over 2,000 years old. So it's a similar age of the sequoias in California. And we also have birds. Much of our bird life in New Zealand, they don't fly. One of the reasons they don't fly in New Zealand is we have no snakes. And until the Europeans arrived, there was no rodents like rats and mice and weasels and stoats and opossums, which killed the bird life. So lots of measures have been put in place to protect our native bird life in New Zealand. The first major British settler to arrive in New Zealand, or the first major settler, was Captain James Cook, who in 1769 visited New Zealand, and during his time he explored the New Zealand coastline 3 times. In fact, he actively explored Australia and many parts of the Pacific. And you can see there at the bottom, the local Maori peoples at the time in 1840, sitting around a British flag, with British colonials there behind the table. They are there signing a treaty. So this is a defining treaty. It stands today and governs a lot of what we do today in New Zealand. It's a treaty between the Maori peoples and the British Crown, and the British Crown, specifically Queen Victoria, guaranteed them certain rights in perpetuity. And these days, we very much follow and respect the Maori's wishes as per that treaty. We have a democratic government. We don't have a president. We have elected members of parliament, and the dominant party has the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is essentially the leader of New Zealand. But we have a Governor General, and the Governor General represents the British Crown. So Queen Elizabeth is also the Queen of New Zealand. So what is a kiwi? Kiwi is referred to many different things. It can be a bird, it can be kiwi fruit, it can be shoe polish, and it can also to be New Zealanders. And New Zealanders like to refer themselves as Kiwis. New Zealand is a safe place to study. It's also a great place to start a career. We're not a crowded country. We're a small country. The area of New Zealand is not large, but it's the same size as the United Kingdom and Japan, whereas we have 5 million and they have up to 127 million people. Some of the reasons for studying in New Zealand is our universities are all in the top 500 of the world. Our qualifications are internationally recognised and respected. It's a peaceful country, it's a prosperous country, and there's excellent post-study work options. In New Zealand, there are 8 universities. There are no private universities. They are all owned by the New Zealand government. And Up Education works with 3 of these universities. And as you see from that earlier slide, we've worked with the University of Auckland since 1998. So in Auckland, we've worked with AUT University and the University of Auckland. And in Wellington, our capital city at the southern end of the North Island, is the Victoria University of Wellington. So the University of Auckland is the #1 university in New Zealand. It is the largest university, has a student population of close to 50,000 students, and it has an international QS ranking of 87. So it's our only top 100 university. AUT University is a young university. It's the youngest university in New Zealand. It has just had its 21 years or 21st birthday, but in actual fact, as an educational institution, it's got a history dating back 130 years. So it started off as a commercial college, like a vocational high school. It became a technical institute and then a polytechnic, and then more recently became a university, but it is still highly ranked at 486. And in our capital, we have our Victoria University of Wellington with a ranking of 275. So one of the things that ACG or Up Education is known for is our pathway programs. These are preparation programs that prepare students for success at university, specifically for students who have come from a 12-year education system. We have educated over 14,500 international students, and many of these students haven't waited to their final year of school. They've actually joined a foundation program prior to their final year of school, have been successful in the foundation, been on to university and been successful there. So in terms of the minimum entry requirements to a foundation program, and these are very similar to what Australian providers and even UK providers require. Need an English level equivalent to an IELTS of 5. In terms of India, need to have completed Class 10 CBSE or state boards with results of greater than 80%. Or they've done GCSE and with a couple of Bs and a couple of C passes. So we can virtually guarantee that a student who works during the course, meets all attendance and academics requirements, will be successful and will be at university after 1 year. So looking at a year 10 student, a year 10 graduate, finished school, commences foundation, goes on to university, and you can see there they've actually finished their academic study 1 year earlier than a student who had remained in high school till the end of year 12. And one of the beauties of foundation is the universities guarantee students a place. So if they've met the requirements in foundation for a specific degree, they're guaranteed that place. There's no ifs or buts. All other students, international students who apply direct from their home country after finishing high school, or New Zealand domestic students, there is no guarantee. So in terms of the University of Auckland Civic and Foundation Studies program, this program has 3 versions. There's a 6-month version, a 9-month version, and a 12-month version. But in general, they all have the same requirements or same course structure. So there's a compulsory subject, English for academic purposes, which is preparing students for academic life at university. And then students have 4 optional subjects. So these subjects are the equivalent of A-levels in this GCSE world, or more like, how should I say, class 12, year 12 in India and CBSE. Some degree pathways at the university will specify subjects that students must study in the foundation, but many of them don't. And if they don't, then students should select the subjects that they like the best and are more likely to score the highest level of grade. So students will study these subjects for the whole period of their foundation program, whether it's a 6-month, a 9-month, or a 12-month. So obviously a 6-month is very condensed. They actually get more hours of instruction a week, and they rush through the program a lot faster, but that 6-month program has our highest level of success. So if you're looking at what are the guarantees, so if you look at the bottom line, if a student who wants to enter an engineering degree at the University of Auckland, a 4-year honours degree, they need to get a GPA of 5. If you look at it as what marks out of 400, they would need to get roughly 300 out of 400. They need to get a B grade in EAP, and must have studied calculus and physics. So long as they've met those 2 subjects and those marks, they're guaranteed a place in engineering at the university. The brochure of the program provides more details. The AUT program has different in structure. There's also a 6, a 9, and a 12-month version of this program, but the basic structure of the course is very similar. Each subject is studied for 1 term. So it's not like the University of Auckland program where you study the subject for the whole length of the program. You study each subject for 1 term. And if you're successful in that 1 term, you have passed and you can carry on and do another subject. If you haven't been successful, most students have within the booked period of their program enough time to do an extra subject and pass that extra subject and still be successful at the end of the course. So as you can see there are 4 compulsory subjects. Culture and society is a bit like the history and social studies, the life and customs of New Zealand, and the academic subjects. Students need to get 50% in each one of those subjects, and for English 2, they must get 65%. So the AUT guarantees in their brochure is very similar to the Auckland one. It's a lot simpler to understand. With AUT, you have to get 4 50s as a minimum in your academic subjects. You must get English 2 at 65%. And if you don't get English 2 at 65%, but get English 2 at 50%, then the university will accept an IELTS. So if you've met those requirements, you are guaranteed a place in that degree at the university. The Victoria University Foundation Program looks similar at first glance. It is delivered in Wellington, so it's not delivered in the same campus in Auckland where the AUT program is, and there is a slight difference there. The Victoria program has 4 compulsory subjects, but it has 6 optional subjects, or in other words, 6 academic subjects. But as with AUT, you need to get 50% in each subject as a pass. One distinct difference is for English 2, it's also 50%. Each of those subjects are studied for 1 term at a time. And for their guarantees, as long as you get 50% in every subject, including the compulsory subjects, then you're guaranteed a place in that degree at the university. We also offer other pathways for students to end up with a degree. In that initial slide, if you notice, there are a number of other colleges that Up Education owns and manages, and one of them is called the UB College of Creative Innovation. This is our design and digital school, our IT school. So this school is different. Students, to entry into their program, students just need to have finished high school, and they need to meet the college's English entry requirements, which is an IELTS of 6. Some of the degree pathways require students to produce a portfolio. Some of them don't. You just need to have interest in that area. So we offer 3 degrees in our own right: Bachelor of Animation, Bachelor of Digital Innovation, which is, putting it another way, it's a Bachelor of Digital Marketing, and a Bachelor of Software Engineering. We also offer an articulation through to Victoria University of Wellington. So if students have studied our 2 design papers at level 5 and level 6, they only need to do another 18 months at Victoria University and end up with a Victoria University degree in design. The advantage of a UB is the entry requirements are generally lower than what a university requires. The course itself is more practical, it's project-based, it's not theory-based. Students are work ready when they've actually graduated. And probably one of the most important things, the cost of a UB degree is considerably less than going to university. In many cases, you don't even need to do a preparation program beforehand. So generally speaking, in New Zealand dollars, it's $20,000 per year for 3 years to get a degree. Going to university, most of the universities in New Zealand charge between $35,000 and $40,000 per year, so virtually double the price. Once you have graduated from UB, you get the same work entitlements with Immigration New Zealand as if you went to university. So if you've studied a 3-year degree in New Zealand, then you're eligible to be considered or offered a 3-year post-study work visa. And if during that time you find a permanent job, then it's possible to apply for residency or a long-term work visa. So one of the purposes today is to talk about 2 offers we have. They're exclusive in the sense that we're offering them through a number of partners in India, and they're non-commercial in the sense that there is no benefit to us at all. We are not clipping the ticket. We are not making any money out of it. And there's no commission payments to any agents involved. So the first one is a leadership program specifically designed for Indian principals and Indian senior academics. This is essentially a 5-day program which will be delivered at the end of March in 2023 and will involve sessions organised by each of the 3 universities. So the AUT University will have a session focusing on entrepreneurship, integrating student initiatives. The University of Auckland will look at STEM and the new indicatives in delivery, and also how you can increase the number of women involved in STEM education. And finally, Victoria University in Wellington will deliver a 1.5-day program on school leadership, new initiatives and new ways of looking at leadership in schools. And finally, in Wellington, Education New Zealand, which is a New Zealand government agency, will be hosting an event in Wellington where key members of the New Zealand government and government agencies will be involved, local high school principals, and we'll also have invited the New Zealand Minister of Education to come and attend and to present the graduation certificates for all participants who have attended in the 1-week initiative. While in Auckland, you will also get the opportunity to visit the Pathway College where the foundation programs are delivered, and also an opportunity to look at 2 of our vocational colleges, either the UB Creative College, which delivers the degrees, and also NZMA, which has a pathway program for hospitality and culinary through to a degree at AUT University. So the program itself starts at the end of March. It will involve 3 days in Auckland and 2 days in Wellington. And if you are interested, at the end of this event today, a brochure will be given to you and there's a registration form. That registration form at this stage doesn't involve any financial commitment, but that needs to be emailed through to me, and then we'll follow up with additional information at that point. And the other thing, which is probably even more exciting for students, is a school exchange, where we are being the middleman, shall we say, between Indian high schools and New Zealand high schools. We are coordinating a linkage between an Indian high school and a New Zealand high school, where there's an opportunity for the 2 schools to set up an exchange program. So a similar thing was done in about 2017 with a number of schools. They were linked up with schools in New Zealand, and that was a highly successful program. The students came back highly excited and innovated to India, really keen to take it to the next level, and then COVID appeared. So this is an opportunity for more schools to join. So students would end up with 2 weeks in a New Zealand high school, living with a New Zealand family, participating fully in school life, academic life, sporting life, being involved in local tourist activities in the area. And if the school is located in Auckland, they'll have an opportunity to visit the University of Auckland and AUT. And if the school is in Wellington, they'll have an opportunity to visit Victoria University of Wellington, which is located right beside the New Zealand Parliament. There is a cost involved, and there will need to be at least one teacher to accompany the group. So we're looking for one school in India linking with one high school in New Zealand. So on the information you'll get after this event, there's also a registration form, a commitment form, not really a commitment form, to get additional information. So once I have that information, I will pair you up with a New Zealand high school, and then the two schools can work together to arrange the exchange. And in time, we hope the New Zealand school will take the opportunity to visit your school in India. So for further details on the school visits and the principal's visits, please complete the forms and please send them back to me. I will respond fairly quickly. So I'd like to thank you for listening to this presentation. I have covered a number of events very quickly. At the end of this event, you'll also get a PDF copy of my presentation here today. And if you need additional information, then the iQuery team can provide you with brochures and also information about UBI. So thank you again today for participating in the event organised by iQuery. They are a long-established partner of Up Education, a very trusted partner, and we have worked very closely with them with a number of initiatives across India for the last 3 years. Thank you again today, and best wishes for the future. Goodbye.